Our sermon series on the vision statement for the church continues today. You can recite along with me as I go through it. We are a community of servants called by God's reconciling grace to open doors of sanctuary, to create new avenues of ministry, to equip Christians for discipleship, and to lead in reconciling ministries. Boy, some of you are ahead of me on that. Thanks. Gosh, that's a pretty good response. Today is to create new avenues of ministry. New avenues of ministry. In Isaiah doesn't say avenue, he says way. So new ways of ministry. That could go have a little richer meaning. A new avenue is appealing. I was driving south on 3rd Street Thursday night at around 5 o'clock, and it was basically a parking lot. And it was interesting looking for cars in that 4 or 5 lanes, jockeying for positions, trying to find a new way through the traffic where they could save time, and cutting cars off and so on. Finding a new way, a new avenue is really important. Some of you will try to find new ways and new avenues next Sunday as you try to get to church through the marathon. New ways are neat. I remember, I'm old enough now that I remember before 670 was constructed, trying to get from this neighborhood to the airport. It took quite a while, and it seemed like it would take at least a half hour to get to the airport on surface roads. Now, sometimes it's like 5 minutes to get to the airport. New avenues facilitate life. They make life easier in many cases. They smooth things out. They straighten things. They level things. With a new avenue, just think about it. You can get to Gehenna really easily. And Gehenna can get to you really easily. Yeah. Sometimes new avenues can be messy. We know from the orange barrels. We know from the construction and the detours how frustrating new avenues can be, how inconvenient they can be. We know how costly new avenues can be. New avenues also change neighborhoods. Again, I think of in the old days when there was basically nothing north of 270. I remember basically farmland north of 270 on 23. Now how different that is, how remote and rural Powell and Lewis Center seemed, and now they're booming and growing. Neighborhoods change us, and one of the things though about and they change people as they change neighborhoods. But avenues take us places and bring people to us. Avenues are kind of two-way streets. Susan seems to know every neighborhood in Columbus because of her job. And Friday she said to me, Milo Grogan is having a wings and ribs cookout tomorrow. Do you want to go? And I said, sure. Now, in our neighborhood on game days, you don't give up your parking space. So I said, let's walk to the Milo Grogan Community Center. So we walked straight out 2nd Avenue, out toward Cleveland and past Cleveland. It was a 50-minute walk, and we went through a variety of neighborhoods. We went under 71. I think it was 71. It might have been 670. Through vacant lots, had to walk in the street in certain places. And we got to Milo Grogan. And there, Susan, good to see you. Great to see you. Well, it's good to see you, Robert. It's good to see you, Muriel. Let me introduce you to my husband. And, and I again was Mr. Susan Keeny. And then what interested me was, we signed up various forms. We had to sign a form to get our hot dog from the city parks. And so we signed up various forms. So we gave our information, our contact information, and people would say, Susan, I want to contact you. Do you have your card? Oh, I don't have a card. John, do you have your church card? Just give them your church card. And, oh, you're a reverend. Well, let me introduce you to my minister. And so it went back and forth. And so it was interesting to me how this avenue, 2nd Avenue, straight out 2nd Avenue, a road I really never traveled very far, took me to a totally new neighborhood and opened me up to totally new people and opened them up to me. That's what new avenues of ministry do. Open us and open others to us. In Isaiah, the Jews are in captivity. They've been defeated by the Babylonians. They've been taken into exile into Babylon. They're prisoners. They're exiles. They yearn to go home, but there's no road to go home. There's no avenue to go home. So when Isaiah says, the Lord will open a way for you to go home, the Lord will put a road through the wilderness, the Lord through the desert will create water for you, so you can go home. This is good news, this avenue, this way home. And God says, God says through Isaiah, remember how God led you through the Red Sea. Remember how God led you through the wilderness. God's going to do that again. God's going to outdo God. God is still acting. God is still bringing light to the darkness. God can still be trusted. And so this is great news that this new avenue will take them home, take them where they belong. The Acts reading is about a new avenue that God is creating to the Gentiles. Up to this point, God's love was believed to be only for the Jews. God's care and God's forgiveness was only for the Jews. And Peter has this vision of the cloth, of the sheet coming down and saying, eat this impure food, eat this unclean food. And this is God's way of saying, I am opening an avenue to the Gentiles. I'm opening an avenue to people that you think I don't love, but I do. I'm opening an avenue to people you think I don't forgive, but I do. You think I don't care for them, but I do. And so when, God says, get ready, I'm opening a new way that I want you to travel. Peter says, God forbid. I would never do this. I would never go and eat with a Gentile. I would never have barbecue and chicken wings. I won't do this because this isn't how I was brought up. I didn't learn this in Sunday school. My mother didn't teach me to do it this way. I can't change. I'm going to do it how I was taught. I can't travel the new road, and I don't believe in your new road. And God tries 3 times, and it doesn't work. How hard it is to change a lot of the ways we were brought up. I got to tell you, I was brought up to fold sheets and T-shirts a certain way. Susan does them wrong. And I am still adjusting to this. After she folds them, when she leaves the room, I refold them. It is hard to take this new avenue. But Peter does take the new avenue to the Gentiles. And when he is called on the carpet for taking this new road to these outsiders, he says, "Who am I to withstand God? Who am I to resist God? Who am I to block God? If God wants to travel this road, shouldn't I? Who am I to block this road?" One of the problems with Peter traveling that road to the Gentiles is it's a two-way street. And so the Gentiles will be coming into the church. Those people will be coming in. That kind will be coming in. And whenever we travel these roads to new neighborhoods, we are exposed to different ways of doing things. And these things change us as much as they change the other person. And the people that are opposing the new road that Peter's taking realize they're going to be eating different food. They're going to be eating with different people. They're going to be doing things differently. Their religious rituals will be changing, and they resist it. And the response Peter gives is, "Who am I to resist God?" This is one of the significant passages in the New Testament. Luke devotes 2 chapters to this story. It's that important. It's that important, this new avenue of ministry to the outsiders. This passage is often used as an argument for accepting LGBTQ persons in the church, that God has opened a new avenue, a new ministry, a new way to people who have been heretofore outsiders. And it's resisted. And people resist God's new avenue and new way because they understand that going to people is one thing, but having them come is another thing. And it will change us and how we do things and how we think. My gosh, if we left gays in the church, we might have to ordain them. And then we might have to marry them. And it's going to be different. And Peter's response still holds. Who am I to resist God? Who am I to resist God's new way? And I think God sees the day, and Peter realizes the day is coming where there's no longer those people. It's all we and it's all us, and you just don't know any difference anymore. There's a cost to new avenues of ministry. But it brings hope, and it brings a future, not only to the people to whom the avenue goes, but to those who come back on the avenue. They're changed, and they're given new life, and they're made hopeful. To create new avenues of ministry. One of the things Isaiah does to kind of lower the anxiety level of people as they realize there are going to be new avenues of ministry that come and go is think in the past. Think in the past of avenues of ministry that might have been problematic initially, but were blessings. We've had new avenues of ministry at King Avenue. The Huggins Fund was a new avenue of ministry that literally opened the way for new stuff. It opened the way for this service. It funded it. It opened the way to expand our children and youth ministry. It opened the way to expand our neighborhood ministry through the welcome desk persons. It opened the way for other churches to become reconciling by helping them to fund them, to pay for videos and work and workshops and so on. We have opened the way through music in the Huggins Fund to make lots of music possible in our church. The Huggins Fund was a way, a new avenue. The reconciling movement in this church was a way that perturbed some people, that was costly in terms of lost pledges, in terms of lost members. But it was a way for this church to go out and for others to come in and there to be back and forth movement. And it changed this church. It's totally different. Stone Village Church was a new avenue, to reach out into Italian Village and take God's message of love and forgiveness into Italian Village. Again, that was costly, and we lost members. But the new avenue took us into areas that were so rewarding. The Changing the Conversation series has opened new avenues of bringing in persons who might not think totally like we do. And they come and they get us to see things in a different way and perturb us and unsettle us. But they broaden us and enrich us. I had an exchange of emails this week with a family in the church that is writing their will, and they want to include the church in their will. And they want their will to create new avenues for ministry. And so they've added to their will a section that their money will be used to fund mission trips in this country and globally. And their money will be used to fund missionaries, opening new avenues for us to go to people and people to come to us. To create new avenues of ministry can be really exciting. I mean, it's the statement in the vision statement that says, dream dreams, think big, think beyond ourselves, think about possibilities, and think about impossibilities that we might do. New avenues for ministry. As I've talked to people about it, one person said, given the incivility in our society, it would be nice, a new avenue for ministry might be for us to become a center for civil discourse where people can actually talk to others that disagree with them, and we could become a light where God is still acting and God is still uniting, even though we differ. In Lit Club, we read all these books anymore in Lit Club that are really disturbing. We read about eviction and homelessness. We read about the opioid crisis. We read about immigration. We read about deportations. And it seems to always come up in Lit Club. John, the church ought to be doing something. It's new avenues of ministry. And you think, man, that's going to be costly. It's going to require labor. But it's a new avenue of ministry to go to people and people to come to us. Yeah. In Disciple, we were talking about, could this building itself become a better avenue of ministry? Lots of groups use this building, but could it be used more at night, late at night when it's empty, or during the day when it's empty? Could it become a sanctuary church? Could it become a site for a daycare for homeless people in the winter? Could it become a site for homeless people at night? New avenues of ministry that change other people and change us, that bring hope to other people and bring hope to us. I've just laid out a tremendous number of issues. And one other is as we think about St. Luke, partnering with St. Luke Church in Grandview, how could that be a new avenue of ministry for youth ministry, for children ministry, for neighborhood ministry, for counseling? Can it be a new avenue of ministry? It's tempting to think of issues. What issues do we plug in with new avenues of ministry? I don't think we plug into issues. I think we plug into people. We look at a person, a homeless person, a hungry person, a person with mental illness, a person who's an immigrant. We look at a person and fall in love with that person and do the ministry that that person directs us to. That's how Jesus did it. Jesus didn't do issues. Jesus did people. He fell in love with a hungry person, and he fed and asked his disciples to feed. He fell in love with a person in prison and asked his disciples to care for that person. We fall in love with somebody by looking in their eyes and getting to know them. That's how the new avenue starts. Not with an issue. It's hard to be motivated by an issue. But it's much easier to be motivated by loving a homeless person, a lonely person, a straight person, a gay person, a person of color, including white people of color. We fall in love and then go where that person leads us and follow the avenue that they take us on. We are a community of servants called by God's reconciling grace to create new avenues of ministry. The point of new ministry and the avenue is to create a way of hope for people, a way for the future for people, so that they know and we know that there is no they and we. There is just us in God's bright world. May it be so. Amen.